Good morning. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, good. My name is Sarah Garrigill, and I work with the Living Archives Project, where we are collecting stories on how COVID-19 impacted various communities here in Charlotte-Mecklenburg County. I would love for you to introduce yourself.
My name is Abel Jackson. I'm a visual artist and muralist in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm approximately 5'9", 180 pounds, copper tone brown.
Okay, awesome.
Skin tone, yeah.
Very, very cool. Abel, you mentioned that you are a visual artist here.
Yes.
What does that look like for you?
Well, I spend my time in my career just doing a lot of services and, painting everything from portraits to murals and engaging in the fine arts and the arts community in Charlotte.
Okay. And how long have you been in Charlotte?
Since 2002.
Okay. And where did you come from?
Greenville, South Carolina.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. Is that where you're from originally?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So not too far.
Yeah.
Yeah. Greenville. I think I've been there. Don't they have like a little waterfall in the middle of the city?
I haven't. I go home and I see my family and friends, but I don't really hang out in too much.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think so. I think they got some stuff downtown.
Got you. It is a cool spot, if I remember correctly.
For visitors, it's a cool spot for
visitors. Yeah. Awesome. So Abel, tell me, was it art that brought you to Charlotte or something else?
Primarily art. I went to school at Winthrop University in Rock Hill, and when I graduated, I came to Charlotte.
Okay, awesome. Mm-hmm. And you've been here for quite a bit, and have you seen some major changes in Charlotte?
Oh yeah, it's changed drastically.
Yeah. What if there's something that stands out to you? What would that be?
It's just changed. A lot more people from out of town, and new structures, new buildings. The whole shape of Charlotte has changed over the last few years, especially the last 5 years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Tell me, as an artist, how did that impact the art world here in Charlotte, like the art community? Sorry.
Actually, I think overall it's been pretty good because within the expansion, there's been more investment in the arts.
Okay.
So it's opened up a lot of doors and a lot of opportunities for artists to excel and to blossom, like in the sense of doing mural paintings and whatnot.
Okay. So Abel, I know you as an incredible muralist.
Right.
Is that what you started with in terms of your art career, or did you start with something else?
No, I started out airbrushing, and I started out with a store actually in the mall, in Eastland Mall. It's no longer there now, but I had an airbrush shop for many years, and then I went from there.
And what types of things would you airbrush?
Everything from clothes, helmets. The motto was paint anything on anything. So it included from signage to cars, just pretty much everything.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. And what kind of guided you in the direction of creating murals?
Well, I had done a few murals before, but a couple of years ago, maybe around 2016, I started seeing those opportunities pop up, and more people were, I call it the mural, the mural pop, so it just like really got popular and started to expand. So I decided to concentrate on murals.
Okay. Is that predominantly what you do now?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I know that you have created some incredible murals all throughout the city. What murals really stand out to you? Which murals really spoke to your heart and your passion?
Well, I think one of my favorite murals is probably the one on 36th Street. A mural because I got to do kind of what I wanted to do. So
what does that one look like for us that don't know?
Okay, so it has 3 children on it, and one of the children is listening to music. The other child is covering their eyes and they got the third eye open, and the other child is sticking their tongue out at you.
Okay.
Yeah, and really it's about methods of changing your state of mind, so to speak, from like an state of anxiety to just kind of relaxing a little bit, having fun.
Yeah, that's really cool. With the work that you do you get to have creative autonomy? Like, do you get to choose what you draw, or sometimes is it kind of laid out for you?
I'm given a structure or format of what, whoever's asking me to do it, what they're looking for, and I
Yeah.
kind of build around that format.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. And what is your creative format look like for you?
Well, the first part of the process is just being receptive and listening and researching. So, I take in as much information as possible and just take it all in and let it process. And then from that point, I can start to build compositions and designs in a direction and go from there.
And typically, how long does it take you, or does it vary?
It varies, but usually the process could be from a month to sometimes a year. It just depends on the client.
Very cool. So, I would love to talk more about the Living Archives mural that you created. But before we get to that, I want to know a little bit more about you.
Okay.
So throughout the last, it's been 4 years since the pandemic arrived here in Charlotte. Can you tell me a little bit about how were you impacted by the pandemic?
Well, actually, I got to take a break. The shutdown was a surprise to me because I'd been working like from 2002 all the way up until that period. I pretty much work. But when the shutdown happened, that was kind of like the first time I took a break. So when I heard about the shutdown, it was kind of like a panic at first, but then it turned out to be like a resting period, at least for 2 weeks. And then I started painting outside on the patio.
Okay. Okay. And I think you mentioned in the past to me that when the shutdown happened, you went back and spent some time with your father.
Yeah, I stayed with my dad.
Yeah. How was that?
Oh, it was cool. I mean, we just relaxed and I just made sure he had everything he needed. And, it's just a relaxing time period.
Awesome. And your dad is back in South Carolina? He's
in South Carolina, so I go visit him every week and spend a couple of days with him.
Yeah, very, very cool. And so you also mentioned, I believe you mentioned, that during that time frame, there was a few ways that the art community kind of gathered together and really uplifted one another.
Well, at a certain period after the Floyd situation, everybody came together to do the Black Lives Matter mural.
Okay.
So that was probably the first collective experience that took place, like actually kind of still on the back end of the shutdown and everything. So everybody came out and it was a big gathering just of our community as well as, the community of Charlotte in general.
Can you share a little bit about how that impacted you?
Well, I think I had a lot of angst over the incident where I wanted to do something, but I wasn't quite sure what to do. So I actually did the letter. Let's see, what letter did I do? I did the letter C.
Okay.
So by doing it just kind of was a stress reliever. It was an unexpected experience. But it definitely was a stress reliever because I did have a lot of angst and wanting to do something, but I didn't want to protest. I protested many times for different things, and I just wanted to do something different, and that was the perfect different thing to kind of do.
That was your way of kind of having your voice heard.
Right.
Can you said you did the letter
C.
And what did that look like?
I did the letter C where there was a guy, he was throwing up a black power fist. And what was in the background? It was like in the sky. It was coming up from the sky and coming down to the lower levels of the sea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. That whole experience, did you do the letter all by yourself, or did you have other artists kind of pitch in and help you with that? And how did that feel?
Well, I intended to do it by myself, but I mean, once we got out there, people just came in and started to volunteer, and there's just so many people wanted to be a part of it, then I just allowed people to be a part of it.
Yeah. Can you share more about that?
Yeah, so when we started at 9 o'clock, we put the letter C on there, and then I started painting. I designed my design for me to do within a day, but first I had a friend come in, and then I had other artists come by that wanted to participate. And they would just say, well, what do you want me to do? Or what can I do? And I said, well, you could do this, you could do this. And so it went from me doing it to me directing people in what to do. So the process went a lot faster.
Okay. And for those who may not know or remember, can you share what did the whole mural say on the ground on Tryon Road?
Said Black Lives Matter,
Black Lives
spelled
Matter.
all out. And every letter, had an artist that was in it, but it was so many people that I'm quite sure many of the artists had other people working with them.
Supporting them. And did everyone, you mentioned that your plan was to have your letter done in one day. Was that kind of the process, the consensus process? Was everything supposed to be done in one day?
It was, but they gave artists an extension of time. So they had a few days to really work on it.
Yeah.
But like I had mine planned to be done in like no longer than 8 hours, but I probably got it done in 4 because so many people helped out.
That's amazing. And after your letter and was done and you saw the Black Lives Matter mural, wow, did that stir any emotions in you?
Well, I was in awe because once I started working on the mural, I wasn't really paying attention to anybody else. Yeah. So I was in the world of the letter C. But then once I finished and I just stopped and I looked at everything and I saw all the people everywhere, all the news stations and, all the artists with other artists. So it was just like huge, but I wasn't paying attention to all of that in the beginning. So after I finished, I went and I walked around, talked to the other artists, asked them if they need anything. And then I thought, well, what else can I do? Should I add something else to my mural? Because I was complete pretty quickly. I probably was the first person to be complete.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? And you said that was the first very much collective experience where a bunch of different artists kind of gathered together throughout the city and worked on one thing collectively. Yeah. What was that like? And what did that begin in the city?
Well, I think that it was very interesting because everybody had their own style, their own concepts, their own ideas. So individually, each letter stood out on its own, but together they even made it even better. So it's very colorful design that I think it was a really nice overall creation. So that worked out really good. And then when it comes to the community, I mean, some of the artists were selected and asked to be a part of it. Other artists just came out, and it was just probably the biggest collective of artists working together in any one project.
Yeah, that's awesome. And since then, has there been other projects where the art community kind of different artists worked together towards like a collective goal?
I think there were a play on that same concept where sometimes artists would get together to do, a series of letters in that way. So that happened in a couple of places, like Camp North End. It happened on the West Side. So you did have those type of, and you still do have those type of things going on, but not as big as that,
Yeah, that makes sense. And so since then, you shared a little bit about your own experience, not really wanting to protest, but having your voice heard through your art. Since then, has the George Floyd incident still impacted you in any way, or how has that impacted you in your own personal life?
Well, the Floyd situation is kind of a continuous situation. So for me, I can go all the way back to, what was his name? All the way back to 94. Was it 94? Or no, it's 90 when in LA when they had the riots. What was it? I can't remember the name right now. But anyway, they recorded him getting beat up, on TV, and then started the riot. So so from that point all the way forward, those type of incidents and that kind of situation has been pretty prevalent. So as far as impact, it hits hard, but it's been a continuous kind of journey, a continuous kind of thing you got to deal with, both as a Black man as well as seeing what's going on around you, and then what can you do about it, that actually has impact or significant effect.
Yeah.
I do feel like there is some change in the sense of awareness. So there's more awareness, but there's still a lot of work to do.
Yeah. If you could envision change, what would that look like?
Just equality, and that true that all men, all people are created equal, and and then actually for that to be upheld, and then for we the people to be on the same page and let that be upheld, as opposed to right now it's kind of like we the people have been pushed to the side as a whole, and then split apart where we can be at each other's throats, and not while other people are kind of making decisions that are not to our best interest. Mm-hmm. So the best situation is really the premise of the Constitution was already been laid out, but we just have to kind of bring that into fulfillment, true fulfillment at this point, because it's getting kind of crazy. Yeah.
How do you feel here in Charlotte specifically, or Mecklenburg County? Mm-hmm. Do you feel like things have changed for the better, or has kind of stand still, or got worse?
It's kind of hard to say, because with all the changes taking place, gentrification is one of those changes. And so with, certain communities being cleared out, they're clearing out the community, but not necessarily helping to deal with the issues that were in that community. So it's just going to go somewhere else. Yeah. But I don't know where that is now. So it's kind of like, even when it comes to where you move in Charlotte, you gotta do your research and figure out where, where everybody's going. Yeah. So in that sense, I don't know what the numbers are. I used to know what the numbers are as like, homicides and stuff like that. And crime and that type of thing. I don't know what those numbers are now. I think they're probably the same or worse. Mm-hmm. But in this situation, I just don't know where the hood is. I have no idea where the hoods are now, because what used to be, lower income neighborhoods are now expensive. You can't even live there now. Yeah. So, So I think overall in Charlotte, things are probably the same or worse. Mm-hmm. And but it's hard to see it because of all the building and shifting and moving things around. And it's kind of like, in certain ways, it's kind of like covering up the scar so nobody else can see it kind of deal. Yeah. So.
That must be really interesting for you in your position as someone who sees that gentrification, but also with these changes has also come more opportunities for you to draw and to create more murals. Mm-hmm. And so that juxtaposition of like, gosh, that must be, how do you feel like in that sense?
Well, you have to be careful, because technically I could potentially be used in that situation. Yeah. So, but fortunately for me, most of my murals have been documentation of history. Yeah. So all my murals have been documenting the history of Brooklyn, documenting the history of West End. And so I've been doing a lot of community projects where the community comes to me specifically because of what's going on and the changes, and trying to be at the forefront of either informing people or educating people about the history of that community. And while at the same time, I work with a lot of grassroots leaders who out there trying to do a lot for the city.
So really, Abel, your work, your artwork, and the way that you share your voice is through community advocacy.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. That's really beautiful that you get to visually represent these communities in such a way that can make a profound impact.
Right.
Yeah. And is that the work that you predominantly enjoy doing? Is this more community grassroots, standing up for a common cause or common good?
Yeah, I mean, I like to do something with purpose. You
Yeah.
know, something that serves its purpose, that has a reason
Yeah.
behind it. You know, a bigger concept, not just paint something beautiful. You know, or just paint flowers or something. I want to paint something that has
That has
purpose.
meaning and purpose. And so you were selected as our muralist for the project for
Correct.
Living Archives.
Yeah.
You got to create a beautiful mural on the exterior wall of Lion Services.
Correct.
Tell us a little bit about that journey. First, what made you apply to create that mural?
Well, I saw the opportunity. I was introduced to the opportunity, and I said, okay, let me give it a shot. Let me see what happens. It was a reasonable process, and I, pretty much I had most of the information together. So just gave it a shot. Sometimes when you apply in that way, you win some, you lose some. You never can tell. But fortunately, I won. So pretty fair, easy process, and we went from there.
Yeah, and tell us a little bit about your process. You got to, for those who may not know, you got to listen to a multitude of interviews prior.
Right. Mm-hmm. So, that was the first step. Well, one of the steps within the process, like I said, you got to be receptive. Mm-hmm. And so I started off listening to the videos and listening to the interviews. And I think, I don't know, we might have listened to 35, 40 interviews maybe. So quite a few interviews. Mm-hmm. And from that, I was able to start to see some things develop.
And what kind of stood out to you?
In regards to just the range. I mean, the interviews are very powerful. Some of the interviews were similar. There were interviews that were similar to what I experienced. There were interviews that were beyond my experience that I would have never known about had I not heard the interview. So it was very eye-opening type of experience. And I just took a lot of information in. And then when it came to the design, I had to ask, or I asked you, so well, do you just want it to be like, do you want all the facets of it, or do you just want it to be positive, or do you just want inclusivity of all the range of it? And so he's like, include everything. So the whole rainbow perspective, or not everything, but kind of the dynamic of from sadness to happiness type of thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so tell us, what did you create for those who haven't seen it?
Okay, so I created a mural. Of course, it has the logo on it. And what I did was I took common experiences and kind of fused them together. So there was an experience, there was a lot of people doing community service. So I had a community service part. There was anxiety and stress. So I had anxiety and stress of a business owner, not only worrying about himself, but his family and his workers. I had depression and frustration and fear and, that kind of thing. I also had isolation, like with a mask on inside your house, looking out the window, where you can't go outside and you're kind of locked down. Then I also had like the end result of coming out into the sun, taking off your mask and appreciating, what you took for granted. Because I think we saw a lot of things we took for granted when we got, locked down and all those things happened. So I think that was kind of like the finale aspect of it. Like, okay, I'm free, I'm free. I can go outside and I can breathe without a mask and so on and so forth.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. You did such an incredible job showing diversity and inclusive story gathering and stories and how the greater community was impacted. Mm-hmm. So we really appreciate you, Abel, and all the work that you did. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you, as the artist, if you wanted those who saw the mural to take away something, what would you want most?
Like I said, gratitude and appreciation. So like coming that full cycle, that full circle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Does that speak to your own story and
Yeah.
how you were impacted by COVID, that you took out gratitude and appreciation?
Mm-hmm. And just appreciation for things, the small things, the little things that you take for granted. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can you share more about your appreciation? What did that look like for you? What did you appreciate?
Excuse me. Well, like I said, like not having to wear a mask, being able to come and go as you want to, having the freedom of movement, but also not bound by fear because what they're telling you on the news, and just stuck in anxiety, and they just it's not just what's happening, it's how it's promoted and how it's pushed out there.
Yeah.
So just going from that to, like I said, grateful, gratitude, being able to come outside and like we are now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome, Abel. Before we finish, you and I did a hand map activity a long time ago together. But
Yeah.
Is there anything from your hand map that you would like to kind of share with us? And if not, it's no big deal.
Well, let's see, on my fingers, I got artist, researcher, explorer, thinker, and spiritualist. So those are me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And on my hand lines, I got living as an artist, entrepreneurship, and helping and taking care of family. So I think within this, probably the biggest thing is just being there for my family and friends and for my dad. And that's probably the most important thing.
Yeah.
And then everything else comes second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for you, the time where you had to take a step back and from your work and kind of spend time with your dad, just really made you appreciate the time that you have with family.
Yeah, that really started when my mom passed in 2014. So that's kind of like the boom, where I just kind of stuck on what's most important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Abel, thank you so much. Before we finish, I'm going to end with one final question.
All right.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with us today?
I think that's pretty much it.
Is it?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Abel.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I really appreciate you.
All right.